So my question is, could you try and give us a definition between the difference between a young soul and an old soul, and how it would manifest differently in astrology?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that question. So, again, the young soul, old soul mentality is just an easy way of describing where someone is in their spiritual journey, right? And you have 12 houses in the zodiac. Right? The astrological chart breaks it into 12 houses. Each of those houses has a young soul, which would also be more of a materialistic or a practical energy, and it has an old soul, which would be more of a spiritual manifestation. And so somebody says or asks in the astrological space, how do I know, or how does it manifest? It actually comes down to the intuition of the astrologer based on the conversation to gauge where somebody is in their journey. And once they have that understood, then they can interpret the various placements to either mean one or the other, right? So for example, a simple one would be the second house. The second house for a young soul is going to be materialism. It's going to be more the financial, material pursuits. An old soul ends up manifesting energy with the intention of contentment. So second house energy starts to move them into either the elements that interfere with or accelerate their placement, the place of contentment in this incarnation. And that's because an older soul has transcended the call to the material space and is actually looking for more of an acceptance or settling into the reality of a human life. And each of the houses has that same energy. Like the fourth house, for example, everyone thinks of it as the house of the home, which speaks to the family, the home you grew up in, certainly real estate. That's the material representation of it, or the practical. The spiritual representation of it is finding where you belong. Right? It's not necessarily about the physical home any longer, and it's not even necessarily about creating a support nuclear family for support and purpose, if you will. It's about finding your place in this world. And so each of the different houses manifest that type of different energy. And as you move through from an astrological space, the awareness of where somebody is in their journey, the whole conversation ends up adjusting to accommodate whether they're in the material, younger soul space, or whether they're in the spiritual, older soul space. And you'll keep in mind that you can move between them. It's never an absolute, but generally speaking, the age of the soul starts to accelerate, or it shows itself more and more as the individual comes into their own sense of self. So as you become more courageous or more accepting and recognize who you are more, and you start to break away from the consciousness of your family, friends, or society that's been telling you for many years who you should be, and you actually figure out who you truly are, it will start to manifest in one way or the other. And keep in mind, because the consciousness is a collection of generally younger souls, an old soul has to work a little bit harder to find their identity because they end up breaking from more of the practical life of having a family, for example, accumulating wealth, and identifying with the material as a source of happiness. They have to see that their life is going to be a little bit different from those around them.